It's your boy Mighty Joe. Welcome to another episode of the Patchbay. Joining me today is a producer and mixing engineer who's worked on songs with artists like Bino Rideaux, Demi Lovato, Lil Yachty, and that's just naming a few. I want to welcome to the show William Binderup.
What's up, my man? How you doing, bro?
Chilling, bro, chilling.
Hey, beautiful day today. Glad we finally get to catch up and do this now.
Yeah, man, for real. How's everything down in SoCal?
Man, the quarantine started, and I just switched over to full mixing engineer mode. Kind of turned to a small blessing for me.
100% something that I want to ask you as far as, your different accolades and how you're growing. But I want to get started and actually just take it right back to the root as far as like what made you choose to be an audio engineer? There's so many different things you could do on the music side and you chose the craft of being an engineer.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I've noticed a lot of engineers have all kind of a very similar story. Mm-hmm. But I definitely didn't start as an engineer. I just didn't one day be like, oh, that's a perfect job. Like, I didn't even know what that was. Like when I was just listening to music and trying to be like a producer.
Uh-huh.
So I definitely was just like a beat maker at first. Like I was like probably 13, 14, 15 maybe around that age. And I was just making beats all the time. And I thought that was the thing. I was like, I'm going to be a producer for sure. Like this is definitely it.
Right.
But after a couple of years, I started to get super burned out from that. I just didn't like starting things from scratch. I got like kind of that creative rut and I was never able to like kind of pull out of it for a minute.
Gotcha.
And while I was doing that, I was working with a friend of mine who was an artist. Mm-hmm. And, being his producer at the time, you kind of also have to be an engineer, when we didn't have big studios and things to go to.
Right on.
So I just started kind of YouTubing things and just, we got to figure out how to make your voice sound a little bit better, bro. It's got to sound a little more crispy. Got to sound a little more warm. Mm-hmm. So I just started looking into that kind of thing. And I started really digging into the world of engineers. Yeah. And eventually I was just like, man, this is actually kind of cool. I actually enjoy this more than making beats. So then I started just becoming kind of a recording engineer for some of the friends and stuff. But then I hopped over into the mixing world after that. And I just enjoy I enjoy people bringing me their ideas and me able to kind of add on to it. I'm not really the guy that likes to start the idea from scratch. That's not my way.
Gotcha. Yeah, we definitely got a similar road. I started off as an MC. And I was always waiting for cats to make me beats. So I kind of got tired of it. And I went and grabbed myself an MPC 2000 and I just started making my own beats. And then I remember one day, man, I think I was doing some telemarketing job and I'm in front of a computer and I'm like, man, I'm pretty good on computers. So I told this one cat and he introduced me to this guy that went to Full Sail. And he was like, but so before you decide with Full Sail, let me introduce you to this other guy that went to this other school. And then he introduced me to him, and I wind up going to this school called the Audio Recording Technology Institute, which was a whole lot more economic and definitely helped me learn what buttons to press, man. And that was pretty much, you know what I'm saying?
I definitely missed out on the school side of things, for sure. I did go to college for 1 year. And I literally almost failed a recording 101 class because I couldn't memorize the names of the microphones. I was just like, hey man, just show me how to make people's vocals sound cool. I don't care what a U87 is or a C100. What is this nerd stuff, bro? Just show me the cool stuff. And so I ended up just dropping out, and I was like, I'll figure this out on my own. And that's
At the end of the day, experiences, even on my last interview that I had, I asked him, do you think experience was the true teacher? And he said 100% because, I didn't have no SSL when I went to school. I learned on a Yamaha O2R. And it was literally, and really where I gained most of my knowledge was when my first gig that I got was at Sam Ash. I was making $250 a week, man, and I didn't know anything. I was scared to death. I was like, oh, damn, they're going to ask me a bunch of stuff I don't know. But, man, I just stayed calm. And every time somebody asked me something, if I didn't know it, I just went and did the research. And the more and more, man, I just started adding all that to the arsenal. And, eventually.
And then the confidence builds up, for sure.
Yeah, and then you actually get, live and direct in the studio and you start to apply all of that as well.
Man.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I 100% the most knowledge I've ever gained from engineering. No matter, I've been around so many cool people that have taught me so many dope things.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, the biggest way I've learned is just from just having terrible sessions with people and just being like, oh, okay, so this is not how it works. It's always like my worst sessions is where I learn the most. You know what I'm saying? Because when I was first starting off, I'd have a horrible session with somebody. I'm trying to get the auto-tune settings right. I can't figure out the key fast enough. I can't record fast enough. Oh, this crashed. You know what I'm saying? And you start learning how to like maneuver because you can't teach strange situations. And like being in a studio, like anything can happen in a studio.
Right.
You never know what's going to happen. So you can't teach how to deal with these like situations that come up. And I think just having so many rough sessions in the very, very beginning, because I had no idea what I was doing, is what taught me the most.
I was actually going to ask you that. What was the biggest lesson that you learned while working on your craft over the years? And it sounds like, like you were saying, like auto-tune and different things that you needed to dial in to really be able to get the artists what they needed.
That's all very true. But another thing I really learned, and a lot of like more mature engineers, I feel like understand this. It took me a minute to get the grasp of this concept. But it doesn't almost really matter how good you are as an engineer. Mm-hmm. It really it's such a people person job.
Sure.
Like you have to just be able to like communicate with people.
Yeah.
And be in the room and be able to talk to people, and you have to be able to translate things.
That's it.
Every artist has a different language when they speak. You know what I'm saying? Well, some dudes don't know what reverb is, so they'll be like, I want to sound like I'm in a hole, and you got to understand that. And the more you're able to understand that, pick that up, and translate their vision.
Yeah.
And it's not so much about, hey, I'm gonna bring my sound to the table. I don't have a sound. I click buttons. That's all I do. I don't do anything very specific to my sound. Of course, if something happens naturally, that's like, Will's mixes tend to sound like this. Overall, understand for sure that comes with just your own creative ideas. But it's about to me, it's not about trying to force your sound. I think the first and foremost thing is, what is the artist's vision? What do they want? Because at the end of the day, they got to carry around this record with their name on it, not you.
100%.
So you're just trying. And when I started realizing that, it made sessions a lot easier because I realized I wasn't trying to push my way in there. Like, hey, let me try this, bro. Let me do this. Let me do that. Let me do this. It was more like, hey, man, what do you want? And then they would tell me, I was like, cool. And that's when I started getting the most clients. And that's when I started working with bigger artists because they're like, hey, this guy's really here just to help me complete this, take it to the finish line. You know what I'm saying? Take this especially in a mix, you get a reference track. You're like, well, it's maybe 6 or 7 out of 10, but they want you to bring it to a 10 out of 10. And so it's just your goal to take it and just run with it.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I would say that's definitely the biggest thing I've learned is kind of just really paying attention to what your artist wants. And basically, every song is so different. So you have to approach every song differently. It's just you can never approach each one.
There's no cookie cutter solution. No, I definitely dig that.
Yep.
So you're originally from Fremont, California, right?
Yes, sir.
But you're now down in LA. So how different are the studios and the artists that you work with in LA compared to the Bay?
I want to say there's a pretty big difference. Mm-hmm. But if I'm being honest, I never really considered myself a really true professional engineer until I moved to LA. Working in the Bay Area, I worked at the studio called Street Symphony Studios in the Bay Area.
Okay.
And it was in Fremont, right behind where Tesla's at. Mm-hmm. So I worked there for about, I think it was maybe 2-3 years. But the whole time I was just kind of the studio manager and the second engineer of the spot, because obviously I wasn't good enough. I was just,
you weren't ready yet.
Hey guys, I was not ready at all. So it wasn't until I moved to LA when I was finally able to quit, all of my other 9-to-5 jobs I was working at In-N-Out and FedEx. It wasn't until I moved to LA I was finally able to quit those jobs and do music 100%. And that's really when that's when I had a major growth spurt in my music. So I do want to say there was a big difference, but also I didn't get the full experience in the Bay, I would say, just being a second engineer. But I would say the number one thing I've noticed the difference between working these places is for me, it was money. Money was a big difference because everyone in LA's got somebody backing them.
Right.
There's someone's putting money in them. In the Bay, it's a lot of people coming out of pocket, which is dope, which is why the Bay gets, that's why that music has such a dope sound to it. It's so different. Dudes are just making music for themselves.
But for somebody like yourself that's trying to make sure that you can make a career out of what you're doing, that doesn't always work because it's just not consistent enough.
Exactly.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? So, and I'll always have love for the Bay. I work with Bay artists all the time. I love the Bay. You know that. But it's just, I want to do this 100% full time. I know plenty of people that have been able to do it in the Bay and do it full time. But for me, it was a lot easier once I got to LA. And especially I had quite a few connections out here too that, obviously gave me a little step ahead. So I would definitely say it was mainly, I've noticed there's a lot more artists out here have financial backing, which is just a lot more helpful for the engineers because, I gotta feed the kid, man.
Yeah, 100%, bro. Like I said, man, definitely same, very similar roads. When I left New York and I was raising my daughter as a single dad, I was in Orlando for the first 16 years raising her out there. And, I definitely did what I needed to do to keep myself growing in every shape, way, or form. But I used to be the engineer for the Nasty beat makers. And Nasty used to tell me all the time, yo, you need to go to Miami. You need to go to Miami, bro. And it was nothing I could do at the time, because I had to raise my daughter. But as soon as she got off to college, man, I went down to Miami. And that's when things really started popping off, just because there was just more traffic. There was just more going on. There was, you had cats like Khaled and all these other people down there that, there was just more of a movement going on. So I think that's what LA is all about. And I definitely can 100% relate to that, man. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, this is like the entertainment capital of the world. So it's just like, there's just so much more work out here too. There's so much more going on. So it's like,
definitely.
And like I said, that's not a knock on the Bay at all. Like, because the Bay has become something so great out of being in that situation. There's just a lot of people just making music for the culture. I'm not trying to do this to get signed and make $1 million. And just like, I'm just making music. There's a lot of people making music for like fun. And that's so dope. And like a lot of times being in LA, like you kind of start missing that sometimes. Like you definitely get lost in the label world and this has got to sound proper for radio. And this has got to be the right tempo so we can play it. And then you lose that. So there's pros and cons to both, 100%.
So now it's just like what does that feel like to just, you're at In-N-Out Burger one day, man, and the next day you're in major recording studios in LA.
Man, the jump for me was, I don't know, maybe it was just from my personal experience, but it was an insane jump.
Yeah.
I was working at In-N-Out for a little bit, and I was doing like the early morning cleaning shifts.
Right.
So it's like, I wasn't the guy serving fries and making the burgers and stuff. I was getting there at like 5, 6 a.m. and we would like mop the whole place, clean the grills, do all that. And then I would leave at around 11 or 12 p.m. and then go to the studio, and I would just sit in the beat room and make beats all day, or like if I had a friend come by and, record him.
Right on.
So I was doing that for, I think about 1.5 years, maybe almost 2 years. And then I switched over to FedEx actually, and just because I wanted to even have more time in the studio during the day. So FedEx started even earlier at like 2, 3 a.m. and I'd be done by 8 and I'd be in the studio at like 9. Okay. So I was doing that, and as soon as I moved to LA, I transferred FedExes to the LA location. And so I moved out here assuming I was just going to keep working and grinding until I got here. And within the first month, I became an assistant for that guy, Eric Madrid, and was able to completely, quit my job. And the first thing we worked on, it was Super Duper Kyle's project. And then we're working like with Demi Lovato and Tinashe and, Offset and like all these big artists. And I'm just sitting here like, dude, last week I was mopping floors. Like,
right on.
What is this jump? So it was really insane, but it was also really dope because that's what people want. That's the goal.
But that's the work you put in, man. That's you took the sacrifice. You took the chance to put yourself out there and travel all the way down to LA, man, and to really set out on the goal you created for yourself in the beginning, and you made that happen, man. So
yeah, and what's crazy too is I also think, going back to your last point about the Bay in LA too, this is specifically applied for engineers, maybe producers only. I don't know if this really applies to the artist world, but I kind of feel like for me, the Bay Area was kind of like the boot camp, because no matter how dope you are in your own city, like if you're the man in your own city, the minute you come to LA, you're back at the bottom of the totem pole. You gotta be built. It doesn't matter. You're like, I was the man in Cleveland. Tight, dude. Now you're in LA. Now you're with the big dogs. So you're back to the bottom. You got to work your way up. So my whole thing was, I didn't feel like I was ready to move to LA. I was like, I'm not that good. I'm still an intern. But my thing is, no matter when I moved to LA, I'm gonna have to start from the bottom. So I was like, hey, I might as well start at 23, 24, and not wait until I got way old and be like, all right, now I'm good enough to move to LA. And then by the time I get there, it's like, well, I have to start the same place everyone else does anyway. So my thing was just, hey, let's get it out the way. Let's get the
Yeah. Well, what were some dues that you had to pay early on when you first got down there?
So the first thing I got was, I was an assistant for a guy named Eric Madrid.
Right.
So Eric Madrid was an assistant to Manny Marroquin.
Okay.
So this dude, he's an incredible mixing engineer. He mixed Khalid's album. He mixed like Location. He mixed I Spy for Kyle. He's got all kinds of big records. So I was able to be his assistant, and being an assistant is super dope because, you know, you get to learn everything from this guy. He's literally like an unlimited book of knowledge just right there for you, telling you if you have any questions about anything. It's dope. But you're not making a lot of money as an assistant, and it's long hours. My son was just born, like within 2 months of working there. So definitely the whole first year, it was like we were living like really paycheck to paycheck to paycheck to paycheck with my newborn. So it was stressful, man. It was extremely stressful because I'm over here like kind of living like my dream over here, but at the same time, it's like when I come home, I'm like, man, I'm gonna keep these lights on today. Like,
I understand.
So
you got responsibilities, nevertheless.
Exactly. But I gained all that knowledge, and, you know, me and Eric left on good terms. It was awesome. I left after a year. A lot of people were like, hey, you should probably stay like 3-4 years. And I was like, bro, I don't know if I can afford another year. I'm going to have to go back to the Bay in another year. I can't keep doing this. And luckily, because of the connection I made through Eric, I ended up becoming Super Duper Kyle's engineer. Like literally 2 months after that. And from then, I just kind of went the whole independent route. And, you know, it's a lot better now. I'm not balling or anything, but I'm in a comfortable position now to where it's not as stressful as it was. You know what I'm saying? But, you know, hey, everyone's got to pay their dues somewhere or another. So those were mine. That's
a great road, man. That's a great road. So I know you said that you were his assistant. I saw a lot on a lot of your credits. It says mixing assistant. So what exactly is your role when you're the mixing assistant compared to the mixing engineer?
So I guess it depends on who the mixer is, because I have a lot of friends that are assistants to like Ali, or friends that are assistants to Jason Joshua or something like that. And so I know they all kind of work differently.
Right.
I can only speak for my current situation. So when I was an assistant, the type of things I was doing is, at least in the world of like, I kind of mix like this too. But when we get files, we want them to sound exactly like the reference. We don't want to have to backpedal. You know what I'm saying? We want to get all the files. So the first and biggest thing I'm doing is checking all new mix files that get sent in. So I'm checking them all, making sure everything's there. All the effects are there that they wanted. It sounds just like the reference. So when we start, we know 100%, you know, if we don't do anything, at least it's as good as the reference.
Does that, real quick, I don't mean to interrupt. It was something I was actually going to ask you after, but since you kind of bring it up, does it, I know for me it does sometimes, but when you get a reference, or the rough mix, I should say, sent over to be mixed, does it ever throw you off? Because you're like, does my mix sound better than this? You know what I'm saying? Because it's like you're trying to make it sound exactly like that, but when do you really make it sound the way you're supposed to make it sound? So does the rough mix ever throw you off sometimes when it comes to mixing?
It does. So this is something just recently, within probably maybe like the last 6 months to a year, I've been doing. I've kind of changed my whole mixing style. So I still take everything as a reference now. Like I'll send it just like the reference. But I've been going through it, and if I hear a reference that's kind of rough, that's like, I don't know about this, I will go back and be like, hey man, just send it dry to me. Let me do this whole thing from scratch.
Right.
But going back to that whole living in LA now type thing with these bigger artists and they have more money, a lot of times the stuff is coming in sounding incredible. Like these producers are in their room making incredible beats. Right. And they're sending to me, I'm like, I don't even need to do anything. Like, the reference it sounds incredible. You guys can put it out just like this, honestly, in my opinion. So sometimes I'll get it and just be like, perfect, the reference sounds incredible, I'm not gonna ruin this. But then sometimes you'll get it and it's like, if it's really rough and I think it's really just gonna affect the overall song, I'll just send everything dry, please.
Depending on the how you're supporting the session, do you approach that session differently? Like if you're gonna be the mixing assistant, I mean, of course, I know there's an of course answer there, but how do you go into that mentally, whether you're the mixing assistant, whether you're a recording engineer, or however you're gonna support that session?
So I would say that the 2 ways. One, as a mixing assistant, when I was assisting, is my whole job is I'm trying to get into a place that the mixer wanted that. You know what I'm saying? Where Eric wanted it. Sure. I was like, as long as Eric is happy when he comes sits down, this is all that matters. But as a mixing engineer, your thought is all that matters is the artist or the producer has to be happy. So it's just who you're working for. In sense. So as an assistant, everything you do is based around the mixer. You're just trying to make his life as easy as possible. You don't need to worry about making the artist happy or the producer happy. That's the mixing engineer's job.
Are you doing any kind of mixing in that process yourself? Like, are you doing any kind of mix, like on a certain set of instrumentation, maybe the drums or something like that, just to kind of pre-get some things ready for the mixing engineer?
Sometimes, like I said, it kind of depends on the song. So a lot of times the songs, like I said, would just come in sounding incredible and we would just leave it as is. Sure. And then, you know what I'm saying, a lot of times I would do a lot of the effects. So he would have me go in and do all like delay throws, reverb throws. There you go. Things like that. But there was, occasional times when artists would be like, hey, we literally don't have the reference stems. Like, we lost the session. All we have is these weird dries. And he would just be like, hey, man, like, I don't want to mix this from dry. Like, can you get it to a cool place? And then I'll step in and do, like, the mixing. And I was like, all right, cool. That happened only a few times. But when it happened, that's your moment to shine. You got to be, like, ready. Those are the stressful ones when he's like, yeah, can you get these vocals sounding cool? Yeah. And it's like a big artist, and you're like, oh, wow, I get to touch these vocals for the first time. Like, this is crazy.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm at the same token, I'm sure mentally you're like, damn, man, I'm putting in all this work, and I'm kind of not even getting my shine for it. But at the end of the day, it's the experience that I need. So I need to be humble to that and just realize that this experience is worth more than anything at this point.
Oh, for sure. And I think another thing that really helped me being an assistant is I was seeing all these big records come out, and I was like, well, I'm not really the one mixing it, so I'm not going to sit around and post it and take credit for it like I really did too much. Right. But my whole thing was, I was like, man, I've been out here in LA for 2 months and I'm already an assistant. I didn't get in on my own works, but I got like 3 or 4 plaques in the first year just based off being his assistant, just being tied to his name. Nice. And I would meet people that were like, oh, I've been in LA for 9 years and I haven't got I've been making $9 an hour, being an intern. And I was like, wow, I got really blessed that I was in this position. So never once would I ever think like, oh man, I'm not getting my credit. I was just always thinking like, wow, I can't believe I'm here. Like, I can't believe I really get to do this. This is wild, So I was just really appreciating the whole moment. You know what I'm saying? And then, because in the end, like, once you go off on your own, you'll get your shine. Like, if you're good enough, like, that will come. That will come in time. Don't rush that. It'll happen.
Nah, that's dope. So I know you said earlier that you're now engineering for this one artist, but are you also do you work for a studio specifically? Do you work at multiple studios? Does it depend where the artist wants to work at that day?
Yeah, so I right now what I'm doing, I don't work for a studio. I'm pretty much completely independent on my own. Like I'm fully freelance essentially. For when it comes to recording, I really only record for 2 artists that I'm tied to. So one is Bino. Mm-hmm. I only really record for him, and then Kyle's the other artist, and I only record for him. Like, those are my 2 guys I record. I don't really do much recording outside of that anymore. Yeah. I'm not really the biggest fan of recording sessions. I'm not very good at sitting for long periods of time. Yeah. So I work with these 2 because we just have like a workflow now that like really is easy for me. Nice. But then outside of that then I'm completely freelance mixing, and I have a home studio that I work at, and so that's where I do all my mixing at. So so I mean, if I'm recording, I'm with one of them too, but if not, I'm at home mixing usually, and that just it depends where I get those clients from. I'm under management or a management group called Indie Pop, so they'll toss me a ton of mixes at times. So nice. Yeah, it depends. Like, I have a really random schedule. So I'll be at home for 2 months straight, and then I'm recording in random different studios wherever they book for a month and a half. You know what I'm saying? So I just bounce around a lot.
So in the beginning, how valuable do you think it was for you to actually assist on those high-profile records, to be able to learn from experienced engineers?
Oh, man, that's just experience like you can't get anywhere else, because you can't find, how to learn how to work with big artists until you actually get around them. Yeah. And it was such a game changer because, one, I was really able to transform the entire way I mix. Because I was like, you know what I'm saying? Everyone's always trying to wonder, like, how do the big guys mix? Well, I was right there just straight up watching it. So as I was seeing it happen, I was like, all right, I can see how I can implement what they do into my workflow and things like that. And then another thing is I realized how to like communicate with bigger artists and bigger producers and labels and being professional and things like that. Because a lot of times before that, it was just the homies.
Right.
Oh, what's up, man? Like, come record me. Like, all right, cool. Like, it's your friends. And then, so this really taught me, like, professional emails, emailing labels, getting your stems and your original sessions, and getting all the passes to them on time, and submitting invoices and PO numbers. And, you know what I'm saying? So that was really cool because, like, right off the jump, I was able to learn about all that. So when I went off on my own, when I did get, lucky shot of like, I get to mix something for a label, I already knew what to expect, what they wanted out of it, how they wanted me to send it, proper email templates, things like that. You know what I'm saying? So it was a lot of great information.
You are now seasoned.
Exactly. Because if I would have jumped right into LA and got a big mix, I would have messed the whole thing up right on the first jump. I would have sent the email like, "What's up, guys? Here you go. Attach the MP3 to it."
That's funny. So, would you say there's one person that you have to be thankful for that supported your development along the way?
Oh, 1,000% my wife, no doubt. She is like the ultimate trooper. In terms of just like supportiveness, she packed up 5 months pregnant, packed up and moved to LA with me and was like, "Hey, if you think you can do this, you think you can do this, go for it." And I was like, "I think I got this. Let's do it."
Right on.
So 100% queen of the world, no doubt.
Peace and love to your wife, my brother. Right on.
Appreciate that. That.
Because it wouldn't have worked without her support. I know that for a fact.
No way would have worked without her.
Yeah. Awesome.
But in terms of the studio, there's definitely two people off top. So one was a friend of mine named Todd Cooper. Mm-hmm. He was the first engineer I ever even really met. Right. And he worked at the studio at Street Symphony. Right. And so when I came along, he's already been there. He's already worked there for like 8 to 10 years at that point, and he was just about to move to LA. Yeah. So I can imagine being in his position as some young kid, just like, "Hey man, can I sit underneath you and just watch your sessions?" He's probably like, "Nah, dude, like get out of here." Yeah. But nah, he was super nice and it was like, "Yeah, man, come sit in."
Awesome.
Taught me things, let me watch the sessions. And then he moved to LA, and another engineer replaced him named Curtis. And same thing. He was completely cool. Like, "Yeah, man, you can sit under him." And all three of us have become really great friends. And all of my basic, beginning engineer knowledge, 100% came from them. And I got to credit them a lot with my success. They were the ones that taught me, like, "Hey, man, speed's really important. Hey, use this, do that." Like, they just taught me all the ins and outs from the very beginning, which was just such a leg up on everybody else because no one else has engineers telling them. It's usually you're at school, and someone's telling you, like, "Hey, this is sometimes how sessions are." These guys were literally like, "Hey, just come sit in my session, just watch." So I was in 8, 12-hour sessions just watching them, like, see how they work, see how they communicated with the artists, see how they interacted with the producers, and it taught me so much. And they were just so cool about it. They would and still to this day, we're all like really good friends. We text each other all the time, like, "Hey, listen to this mix. Hey, what do you think about this? Like, what about this plugin? You ever heard about this one?"
Oh, that's dope, man.
I got extremely blessed with the people that helped me come up. I never had anyone. I know people always like, "Oh, people hated on me coming up." Like, nah, dude. Everyone was extremely supportive of me, and I'm not gonna pretend like it was people hating on me like that.
Right on. I saw you assisted Eric Madrid on quite a bit of records. Would you say that was somebody that really was somebody to help you grow into where you are right now? Yeah, for sure, 100%. Eric did. Eric was different in a sense though, because when I met like Todd and Curtis, I was like straight. Like, "Hey man, I'm just like the janitor in and out, basically. Like, I just sit in here." With Eric, I knew a little bit more. Yeah. But Eric is the one that I think that taught me the professionalism of the entire thing and taught me how to interact. And then he was like the one that was like, "Hey, here's how the big guys mix. Here's how we set up our stuff." And it was like, not everyone does the same thing. But, it was kind of like a general overview of like, hey, this is the professional world of mixing now. This isn't just you and your friend's room doing it anymore. But it was just moving to LA and being like, okay, this is a little bit different from the Bay. I think he helped me with that entire transition. You know what I'm saying? Of like learning how to deal with LA artists instead. Because there's a difference for sure when it comes to dealing with a label versus just, some dude that's kind of just coming out of pocket by himself. It's a much different world. Sure. I know when we first got started, and we've been talking about it a little bit, that you said that you have graduated. When did that happen? How did you graduate from being an assistant to now being an official mixing engineer? Man, it was it's been interesting because it's still kind of in the process at the same time. Okay. When I first left Eric's studio working with him,
I was kind of just like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. Like, I'm out here in LA. I've been an assistant this whole time. I haven't had a chance to meet too many like artists, like for myself, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And right off the jump, luckily, I got a call from one of Kyle's managers who knew me as, you know, oh hey, we knew you're Eric's assistant. We knew you recently, like, are no longer his assistant. Kyle needs an engineer, just a recording engineer.
Right.
And I was like, oh, for sure, sign me up right now. Yeah. So I started doing, you know, a lot more recordings with Kyle. And so people were seeing me, like, attaching me to his name a lot of the times. You know, like, oh, you're the Kyle's guy? Right, so they didn't know exactly what I was doing. They just knew I was Kyle's engineer. So a lot of people would just hit me up on Instagram like, hey, man, like, how much for a mix? How much for this? And I want to get into mixing, but it's kind of hard to get into mixing if you're not like a recording engineer first, because it's kind of hard to make those connections, you know?
Yep, 100%.
So over time, just being attached to that name, a lot of people started hitting me up for mixes. And then, 6 months in, I meet this artist, Bino Rideaux, start working on him, and he doesn't have a mixing engineer. And he's like, yo, I want you to start mixing all my stuff. So I started mixing his things, and then people were seeing that. And so it just really became like a word of, you know.
And I'm sure that was all from the relationship that you built with Bino, that you and him just vibed, and he was like, man, I mess with this cat, so I'm going to go ahead and see what he got.
Yes, and it goes back to the whole thing of him just like, I was like, bro, what do you want to sound like?
Right.
Like, you tell me. Like, I'm not going to sit here and try to make up a sound for you. Like, tell me what you really want to hear out of your own voice. And I think just the fact I wasn't like the kind of engineer that he was like, hey, like, I want just take a ton of lows out of my voice. You know, most engineers are like, oh yeah, bro, like, that's not a good idea. I was just like, hey man, if that's the sound you want, let's do it.
Right.
And we did it, and it became kind of his sound. And like, I think he was just like, all right, cool, this guy really like sees my vision. And then in return, he was giving me a ton of creative freedom. He was like, hey man, like, can you kind of build like a cool little vocal production style outro here? Can you do this? Can you do that?
Right.
And it became this cool, like, just, you know, trust is based off everything when it's an engineer artist kind of thing. Like, they gotta trust that you're gonna complete their vision, but also they gotta trust you. Like, hey man, if I'm gonna do my own little thing right here, like, hopefully you'll like it. Let's see what it sounds like, and you know, just trust me on it. I got you. I'm trying to make your music sound good, bro. I promise.
Exactly. I think it's important, you know. We are definitely in, I guess you would say, we're in the service industry because we're always helping others as engineers. But I think it is important for us to be able to enjoy what we do, because even though they kind of got us on the bottom of the totem pole, we're kind of on the top. Because, you know what I'm saying? Like, we put the
without us, it all crumbles.
Yeah, you know what I mean? So I do think it's important for the engineer to be able to be enjoying themselves too, and to be respected and not just be looked at as somebody that's supposed to just be, you know, a do boy. You know, that's one thing I've never been. I'm just not a do boy, and I'm not a Pro Tools operator. Like, I have my own craft.
Thank you.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And that's not going to help you too, because one of the biggest things, because I do like the recording process when it's the right artist. I don't like to just record anybody in any shape, way, or form. So I'm definitely right there with you. But I think one thing that has made me valuable as an engineer is my rough mixes almost sound like they're mixed. So everybody's like, damn, that's a rough mix. You know what I'm saying? And I think it's important to be able to establish that as a recording engineer, because you can't, one thing I learned a long time ago is you can't give them some stuff that sounds dry or just has no vibe to it, because how do they know that they want to come back in the studio and keep working on the record if it doesn't sound, you know what I'm saying? So you want to kind of get it to as close as possible. So,
man, I've always said that the recording engineer is 1,000% the most underrated creative job. I feel like so many people think the recording engineer is like the technical nerd guy. That dude is he's making 80% of the mix before it even gets to the real mixing engineer.
Exactly.
Like, that dude made the record in the room at the moment.
I give an analogy. You know, my job is, you know, as a mixing engineer, if you give me a Lamborghini, I'm supposed to give you back a shiny Lamborghini. If you give me a Hyundai, though, I can only give you back a shiny Hyundai. And that's just the way it is. You know what I'm saying? So, in my opinion, the mix starts in the recording.
100%.
So as you were growing, like you said, now you're dealing with labels. What's your experience been like as far as how things need to be delivered and stuff like that? Because there are deadlines. Is it you know, how is that experience though?
It's kind of honestly still the same thing. When I was more of like the random one-off guy getting it, it was more a little bit like, hey, get these files in now. Like, come on, we need these. But a lot of times, like, because I'm aware of what they're going to need, I have it ready for them most of the time. So every time they've hit me up like, hey, we need this by this deadline, I've had it ready. I just definitely think it's about being prepared, like, because they're going to want things, and when they need it, they're going to need it like immediately, because they're trying to submit it, placements, and labels will be late with everything. They're never on time. We're the ones that are always early. They'll be like, hey, I forgot to tell you that we needed this instrumental 2 weeks ago, but now we need it today because we need to submit it in 30 minutes. And you're like, you couldn't have told me 2 weeks ago?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So I think a big thing, the best advice I could give anyone is just be prepared. If you know the mix has been approved, it's done, it's over to mastering, they just start printing stems right now. Just start making the clean version, because they're going to ask for it, and it's going to come up, and they won't give you any time, because they're just, they have so many people to work with. They're just like, you're just another name in the, in the book.
I think that's great advice, man. Is be prepared, 100%. What artist would you say that you vibe with the most, where the process is just almost effortless with you guys?
I would have to go with Bino, for sure. Me and Kyle's process is incredible as well, but I don't always mix Kyle's records. Like, Ali mixed Kyle's recent project. So that process, our recording process, is incredible. But with Bino, I record and mix him. So that process is dope, because when I record with him, we just have it down. He likes to punch in each line by line. And so we've got to a point where we're really fast. And I'm the only engineer in the room. I'm usually always the only producer in the room as well, because we're getting like the beats sent into us. You know what I'm saying? So the producer's not in the room.
Of course.
So I have all the files. And so when they're ready, like, hey, we want this mixed, or we want to get this file, I have everything. I was the recording engineer, and I'm not complaining about, hey, the recording sounds terrible, or the recording sounds, trashier. I was the one that did it, so I have it there the whole time.
Right on. That's cool, man. That's cool. So tell me about the collaboration process between you and, let's say, Bino, as far as the mix goes.
Oh, yeah. So Bino, but one thing about him is he's really, really tied to reference tracks. Luckily, I'm the guy making the reference tracks too. So that is where that comes in, like, super dope. Me and him will sit in the studio, like, right after he's done recording the song. And I'm just going to sit there and mix and start messing with his vocals and doing this and moving things around. And sometimes I'll do arrangements and things like that. And he'll sit over my shoulder and just be like, if you like something, he'll be like, cool. If he doesn't like something, he'll be like, hey, don't do that, don't do that.
Right.
So we'll just go back and forth. And then by the time they're like, hey, we want this mixed, I don't have to do as much heavy lifting at that point, because I did that in the studio with him. So then it's just going in there and, really detailing, start really, doing like real surgical EQ, things like this, moving things around slightly, but nothing crazy.
Yeah.
So it's dope in that process, because all of it's done with him in the room initially, like all the big movements. You know what I'm saying? If I'm going to make a big, massive cut somewhere in the song, he's the one who's coming up with that. So I don't got to worry about doing that on the mixing stage. You're like, oh, hopefully he likes it when I send it over, because he's just right there. So it makes it really smooth just working with him like that.
Have you ever been sent the reference by somebody, and then went and didn't send the mix back exactly how, like, maybe you changed the reverb, or you added a different delay, and they were like, and they came back at you like, yo, man, what'd you do? Or more, were they on some old, man, I'm digging what you did instead of what we had?
I've literally had both, and I think it just depends on knowing your client. So I've definitely had this situation where, like, I'll get a song, I'm like, man, this snare's weak.
Right.
So I'm like doing all kinds of stuff to the snare. Oh, they're gonna love this. Send it back, and they're like, hey man, we like the reference snare. And I'm like, okay, my bad, I'll just go turn everything off I just did. But then there's been times people will send me vocals, and like, they're just raw, dry, and they're like, yeah, I like the way they sound. And I'm like, no, you really don't. You don't know it sounds good. And because I know the artist has that trust with me, it's not some, like, it's not usually I do it on the first mix with somebody. It's after a while, someone
build that.
I'm like, just give me a minute. Exactly.
Right.
So I'll go in and redo it, send it back. They're like, whoa, okay, cool. Didn't know it could sound like that though. You know what I'm saying? So it's definitely, I think it has a lot to do with like, it happens less and less now.
Right.
As I'm starting to learn the artists I work with, like, hey, okay, this guy gives me a little more free room. Yeah. Nope, this guy, he loves his references, so do not touch him. He's just learning the artist.
I was Red Cafe's engineer for what, 4 or 5 years.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And Red would send me a record sometimes, or not even send me a record. I would literally finish, recording him, and we would love the way we had it. But then when I got back to the crib and I started mixing it, I just heard some different things. Yep. And I went in that direction, and I sent it back. He's like, what the hell is that, man? That's not what we had. you got to go back to what we had. I was like, all right, bro, don't worry, man. You know I saved as, so I'll just go back to version 3 before.
Yep, you got to save as every time you do something
damn
crazy.
Right.
that happened with Bino on his most recent project he just dropped. It's actually kind of funny because I actually learned quite a lot from this incident.
Yeah.
He was giving me these songs that we all recorded in the studio, and he was like, "Hey, just go ahead and do a mix on them. Go start mixing all these. We're gonna put them out." So I was going through and I was polishing these up. I was making them sound all clean, like little pop records. I sent them back, and he was like, "Bro, what artist?"
You took all the warmth out my voice.
And I was sitting there, I was like, man, this sounds way better. And then I started listening back, I was like, actually, it doesn't. It sounds like a pop record, and these are not pop records. I was like, that grittiness, all that like high-end that we added in for whatever strange reason, like it made it work. Yeah. And so now that's kind of, I'm still learning that, like, hey man, bruh, you don't need to polish everything. Some stuff sounds good dirty. Like that's the point.
Yeah, I can totally relate, man. Totally relate. So do you feel more connected to the mix if you recorded it as well, or it doesn't really matter to you? Yeah, you do?
To me, it does. Yeah, and the reason why is because if I record a song and I really like that song, I have like a whole little section on my notes of all songs I've recorded or done like little demo mixes on that aren't out yet that I'll just listen to just to kind of hear, what they sound like. And so I kind of get demo-itis with the artist. So we'll do the recording and we'll listen to it for like a month and a half, and I've been playing it all the time on my headphones and stuff. And he's like, all right, let's mix it. And I'm like, man, I've been listening to it for a month and a half like you have. Like I feel like the artist right now, like now I have this real deep connection with this song, like, and now I don't even want to mix it because I'm so used to this version, which is sometimes a problem. But yeah, definitely when I record it, I get to sit on it for a little bit longer, and I think it makes me feel more like, wow, this is really like I'm fully a part of this record.
And you remember that moment when you were actually in the studio laying it down, because that's a connection between you and the artist that's like no other.
Oh, so true. And then just sitting there watching them, you know what I'm saying, come up like at least with Kyle and Bino, they usually aren't the types that come with like, oh, I got some pre-written lyrics usually. Right. They're the kind of guys that are wearing stuff and vibing. So it's cool watching the song be created.
100%.
You get to watch the entire lyrics being written and everything in the same moment. So it's like, definitely you feel a little bit of a connection differently if you're the recording engineer too.
I know Red used to mess around me. He's like, come on, bro, I need you to write this next verse, man.
Oh yeah, as an engineer, every once in a while you gotta have some lyrics on hand. I have to toss some little alley-oops to people every once in a while.
You damn right. You damn right.
Gotta keep a bar or two in the back pocket.
That's one of my strengths, though. I mean, I wouldn't say I did that with Red, because he was always kind of a master of his own process. But if an artist is stuck, man, and they're trying to figure some stuff out, having started off as an MC, I'm able to be like, hey, why don't we maybe take this word out or flip it this way, and the artist really appreciates that. So.
Oh man, yep. I learned that quickly. Yeah, if you have like, I mean, if you, that's all the engineers out there. If you don't have any bars, don't start throwing that out there. It's gonna make you look bad. But if you got some and you throw them out, they will definitely appreciate it if they're good, and they will use them.
Right on. So you mixed and mastered the record Bet, and that was for Bino Rideaux.
Yeah.
So what all goes into mastering that's different from mixing?
Man, interesting you asked that because I want to just go ahead and get this on the record. I am not like
a mastering engineer.
I'm not a great mastering engineer. I've been having to do it because I'm the guy mixing the project, and I know they like, you know what I'm saying? I'm a mastering engineer's worst nightmare. Like my mastering engineer, his name's Nick. Oh man, bro, I know he hates me, man. I send everything so loud to him just because I know artists love things loud. So on this record, I mastered it, quote unquote, mastered it myself for him just to hear it super, super loud. But then he just got attached to that sound, and he was like, hey man, like, is this mastered? And I was like, I wouldn't say properly. Right. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to compare myself to a real professional mastering engineer because they do different stuff. But I was like, but yeah, bro, this is definitely loud enough if you were just to put it out like this. And at the time, this was like, I think this song was completely done before he had his label deal. So he was like, hey, I don't really want to go spend money on a mastering engineer. If this works, then let's do it. And it worked. And then from that point on, like, I've just been mastering his things as well, because now he's just like, hey, I like the way you make it loud. It's a different sound, and like we've kind of like, I know how loud he wants it. I know what he wants to hear on his master, essentially. So as much as I mastered it, I don't want to sit around and claim I'm like a real mastering engineer and disrespect all the real mastering engineers. But yeah, I definitely mastered for him. You know what I'm saying? Because he likes that sound that I do on it.
Do you bring the 2-track back into Pro Tools and just do your process there?
Yeah, right? yeah. So I wait till he approves the mix, and then I'll take that 2-track in and go back in and do like a whole new 100%. Master on top of that.
So we were talking about some of your credits before. What was, and that's always a fun and exciting thing, especially when you get your first credit ever. What was the first credit you ever got that you was like, yes?
Okay, for sure. So I definitely had some cool credits in the Bay Area, but a lot of stuff, like any of the cool stuff in the Bay Area I worked on, never really came out, unfortunately. Like I worked with Lil B one time in the Bay, and that was such a cool thing for me, but the record I don't think ever even came out. Right. So the first big record I really kind of got was working with Eric, of course, and we did this song called Cocky for the Uncle Drew movie. And it had A$AP Rocky on it, 21 Savage,
nice,
Gucci Man on it, and maybe 2 Chainz. I don't know who it was. But it was like these, like the Mount Rushmore of like modern day, like just like the top rappers. And it was like the first song I worked on. So when that thing came out, I was so proud. I was like, look at this. Like, of course I was just the assistant, but I was so proud of that because I was just so many big rap names on like my first attempt around. So that was dope. But I also had a record in the Bay. I forgot to mention this. Can't forget this. I did a record for Young L. And you know, if you're from the Bay, anyone from the Pack, that's just cool to have that credit. So I mixed a song for him called Baller Blockin', and I was very proud of that one because I was like, this is Young L. Like, he's a pillar out here. He's a Pack. Like, he's the guy.
If they didn't hear it before, they're gonna hear this interview and they're gonna go check it out now, man. So
I was very proud of that mix.
So you were talking about that you got a couple of plaques. Who were those plaques from?
So a lot of my first plaques were all because, like I said, when you're the assistant, like you get tied to whatever the mixer does.
Gotcha.
So I know I got a plaque. The first one I ever got was for Light of Mine, which was Kyle's project that I worked on with Eric as an assistant. So I got that one.
That's dope.
And then I think 2 of his singles also went gold or platinum. And then I think we did, I'm not gonna lie, when it came to the plaques as an assistant, it was super cool to me to get them, but I never went out and bought them. I don't have any of them physically. My whole goal was like, I'm not gonna go buy that plaque and like hang it up in my house and be super proud of it until I get this on my own. Right. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's how I felt. And there's a couple things that are coming up that I'm pretty sure are right about to hit gold pretty soon.
Awesome.
So
and
you know, when
that's like an actual mix that you did?
Oh yeah, exactly. 100% awesome. Thing I did. It's quite a few, and it's just like they're almost there, and it's right at the edge. So yeah. So once those come in, then I'll go get all my assistant plaques. But I kind of want the first one to be like really proud. I wanted that to be me. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't know. Maybe it was a little pride thing, but I was like, I don't want to have the first plaque and be like, oh, I was an assistant for this one. Like that's cool, but I want to get the first one of my own.
I love it.
Yeah. What? But yeah, I got quite a few with Eric, and it was definitely cool to like just be able to say you have them. Like that's, you know, you're a platinum engineer. You know, that's a cool little thing to say for sure.
But now it's next level. Now you're getting ready to turn the corner again. No, that's great, man. I love to see the growth. So you, of course, you know, you're constantly working on music. So do you sometimes need to disconnect and just clear your head and regroup?
Oh, for sure, 100%. I feel like a lot of producers, engineers, artists, like there's this type that's like, oh, I live and breathe music. Like all I do is, there's like days I'll go like 3 to 4 days without listening to a single song. It's like I'm on vacation, you know what I'm saying? Or chilling and not working. And it's not like, oh, I hate music. I just think sometimes it just becomes, there's just an overload of too much musical information.
Sure.
And it's just too much. And so when it comes to mixing, like there's got to be that give and take. It's still got to excite you when you want to do it. So if I'm just always music, man, dude, working after a while is going to get kind of a bore. So I like to take a step back from it and jump right back into it. So I love basketball. During the quarantine, I went out on a basketball hoop. So I've been like hooping. That's what I do on my mix breaks. I'll go mix for 2 hours and I go hoop for an hour. They're gonna go mix for 2 hours and hoop for an hour.
Nice.
So yeah, definitely that. I've noticed like I'm in like probably just a regular thing for all people should do. But
yeah,
I'm working out, just trying to be healthy. Like that helps because as an engineer, you're in the room so much, just sitting down.
Yeah,
and it just you're not moving a lot.
Stay active.
So I noticed like a lot of working out and exercising has really helped me. You know what I'm saying? Kind of just stay focused. And like get that little break and get my energy directed elsewhere.
Yeah, no, that's awesome, man. And I'm with you too, man. Like I think I'm kind of done doing on I've kind of been on that for a minute, where I'm just not into recording anybody anymore. For one, I think the money kind of ruins the creative process, you know.
So true.
And if you're working with somebody that's already struggling, you know, if you're working with a label, it's a different story. You know there's a budget there, or just somebody that's got backing, you know, there's a budget there. But if you're dealing with an average cat, they're trying to, you know, stay above water themselves, and you're trying to stay above water, and now the money almost becomes this conflict that ruins the project from jump.
So true. That's why
saying?
like, if you're gonna work with someone that doesn't have a big budget, like, you as an engineer needs to really be like, you have to want to be a part of this project.
For real.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
yep.
this has, like, if you're gonna, you know, actively be like, all right, this guy doesn't have a budget, but I want to work with him, make sure you believe in this project before you do it, because what's going to turn into is just going to turn to a headache of just having, like, oh, well, I'm not getting paid enough to do it. But if you believe in the project, then it's going to be okay. You're like, I'm not getting paid as much, but I believe in this. I know what's going to become of this, you know?
Yep.
And that's where it becomes really cool. And I have a couple clients like that they don't have fat budgets, but I literally, like, I respect their music, I respect them, and I really believe in them. And I'm like, hey, you know, maybe one day you will get a budget, and then you'll be able to pay me. But until then, like, let me help you grow, because
definitely.
When I was a producer and when I was helping work with artists and stuff in the Bay Area, and I was a young kid that had no money, like, I know how that is. Like, I know you guys wish you could pay me more, but you can't. So let me help you out. Like, I'm totally for, like, helping, like, the, you know, the people that don't have a ton of money out, because that's dope to me.
No doubt about it. So what would you say is your ultimate goal, though? You know, what's end game for you?
It's a good question. Originally, my whole ultimate goal was, I just want to be able to do music full time. And so that happened so quickly. I was like, all right, cool. Well, that was easy. That was, you know, what wasn't easy. But I had that. So I've been thinking recently, like, what is my next goal? And I think what it is right now, currently, because I try not to think too far out, because I'm just like, I'm only 25 years old, so I'm still really young. I'm like, I'm going to be thinking a whole different way by the time I'm 30, by the time I'm 35, by the time I'm 40. I'm going to have different, you know what I'm saying? I'm going to have different life experiences by then. Sure. Exactly. So I don't like to think too far out. I mean, obviously, I don't want to completely, I don't think about the future ever. But I don't try to think too far in advance, because I'm like, I might have a whole different, because 5 years ago, if you would have asked me where I want to be as an engineer, it wouldn't be where I'm at right now. It was something completely, but through life experience, I became like, I don't want to work with as many big artists. I just want to work with cool people. You know what I'm saying? Like, just cool, nice, creative people. When it used to be like, oh, I just want to work with big people.
Right.
So I would say my goal right now is just really kind of to hone into my mixing. Trying to make mixing like my big thing, because a lot of people still out here in LA know me as like a recording engineer. And I kind of, like, right now I'm in the transition of like, hey, I kind of want to get, like, basically switch over my business to like 80-20, like 80% of the time mixing. You know what I'm saying? And right now it's kind of 50-50. So I think my goal right now is really just to get more into the mixing world. And
maybe get a Grammy or two.
Hey, why not? Add that on while we're there. As long as I get paid, I'm good.
Heck yeah, brother, man. No, that's super dope. So this is actually on a little bit more of a somber note, but I wanted to make sure that I recognize this for you. So you recently lost a good friend of yours. His name is Anthony King. So there's a GoFundMe page set up for him if you wanted to let people know, you know, how they can go donate.
100% appreciate it. Yeah.
Of course.
What's funny about him is he was literally the guy that would do cleanup with me in the morning at In-N-Out. So it was literally just me and him every morning. And like, he always supported all my music stuff. And he was like, incredible dude. Taught me like a lot of lessons because he was older than me. And In-N-Out was my first job. So he's like, incredible dude. Rest in peace, Anthony King, my bro. But yeah, he has a GoFundMe. It's attached. The link is in my bio on my Instagram, which is just at William Binderup. All the proceeds go to the Colin Kaepernick Know Your Rights Foundation, which he was super supportive of. So yeah, if you can, go donate. Yeah, rest in peace to my boy. I appreciate that.
Right on, brother, man. Of course, rest in peace, 100%. So last thing I wanna finish it up with, man, is I just want to open the mic up for you. If there's anybody that you want to shout out, anything you want to promote.
Man, I want to give a quick shout out to, you know, my boy Curtis and Todd and Eric, all three of them for always. I was telling you about them earlier. Like, they're the whole reason I'm even where I'm at as an engineer. So shout out to them. Go grab Bino's new project, Outside. It's out now. We're working on the album next, so you know, more good music to come. But other than that, that's pretty much all I got, my guy.
So I want to thank my amazing guest, William Binderup. He is an upcoming engineer, as you've heard, a cat that's grinding on a daily basis. And this is an amazing interview. He definitely shared a ton with people, for ones that are maybe there, that are trying to get there. Make sure you go and follow this cat, man, because he's one of the good ones out there. And I appreciate everybody tuning into this episode. As always, stay safe, stay strong, and keep loving your heart, everybody. It's the Patchbay.
Yes, sir.